Welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Do you feel stuck, silent, and stressed? Is something hurting your heart and soul? Are you burning yourself out? If so, you are in the right place because this is the podcast people from all over the world join in to learn exactly how to stop suffering and start living with inner peace and joy. Let's get started.
Hey, last episode we were talking about if there's somebody who has committed an atrocious crime, an atrocious injustice, and has hurt you very badly, that nonetheless we need to treat them with empathy and compassion, because that is our best way forward if you want to establish peace for ourselves and our communities, and also if you want to achieve greater healing for ourselves and our communities, right? It's like, remember that the ethic of an eye for an eye, if you live by that ethic, the whole world will go blind. So the idea that we're really thinking about and focusing on right now is, okay, well, then if you're not going to follow the ethic of an eye for an eye, then what do? It's like, well, we treat everyone with empathy and compassion. Everyone, even our enemies. And we're actually striving to get to a place where we say, hey, I have no enemies. I choose not to relate to anyone as an enemy. And the very first thing that we need to do in order for us to be able to practice this in our lives is to recognize the essential humanity of the people that right now we may be perceiving as our enemies. Just recognize their essential humanity. Now, okay, so you have recognized their essential humanity, and the two main points that I raised around how do you do that is, number one, you recognize that, look, we share the same basic human needs. We all, for example, have a need to love and be loved. We all have a need to exercise a certain amount of power and control over our lives. We don't like to be rejected and humiliated for that reason also, because we have these needs, right? So it's like, okay, so we have these needs, and they're really what motivate us to act in the ways that we do. So that's the first point. And then the second point in recognizing our common humanity is to also recognize that when whatever decisions that we make, whatever actions a certain person might take, they are making the very best decisions that they can with what they know and what they have. It's like, even in a situation where, you find yourself feeling absolutely repulsed and hateful about what that other person has done, nonetheless, it's important that we remember that that person was doing the very best that they could with what they knew and what they had. So last episode, I actually gave you an example, and I want to dig a little deeper into it this episode. So the example I was giving you was the shooting that happened a few weeks ago. I think it was in North Carolina, where the white supremacist, he went into a black church and he shot 9 innocent people. Now, I absolutely believe that what he did was wrong. And that this person, insofar as from everything that we know about the case, that I know about the case, from everything that I know, this person up to now has not recognized his mistakes. He does not feel any sense of remorse or guilt around what he did. So this is not a person that we can just let out into the world, because if we just do that, he's going to be encouraged to continue to behave in these atrocious ways. It's just not acceptable. I mean, innocent people's lives are at stake, and we must protect those innocent people's lives. But at the same time, if you really think about, if you take on this mission of, okay, even for the people that I'm perceiving as my enemy right now, or that I'm hating or finding myself feeling angry towards, I mean to remain grounded in the knowing that they're nonetheless human. I mean to remain grounded in the knowing of our shared humanity. So it's like, okay, so then we have to begin to make an effort to develop more empathy and compassion for this person. Okay, so I was listening to a news report about this incident, and in the news report they had like a witness talking about one of the witnesses who survived the incident. She was sharing some of the things that she heard this man say before he went and killed these innocent 9 people. And two of the things that I remember specifically that she reported him saying was, number one, he said, "You are raping our women, and you are taking over our country. And I want to kill black people." So, I mean, his rationale for wanting to kill black people was, you're raping our women and you're taking over our country. Now, in the news report, I noticed that they showed this clip of the witness reporting this, and then the panelists on the news show, they immediately began to criticize or dissect how illogical and irrational these ideas are. So they started pointing out things like, it doesn't even make any sense for him to say things like, you're raping our women, when, among his victims there were women and children right there. And, start quoting all these other statistics and so on and so forth about the state of things in America, where it's like, this just doesn't make any sense for him to say that, you're taking over our country. It just doesn't pan out if you look at the situation objectively. And now I actually agree with the panelists on the news in that I do believe that this white supremacist perspective on things is not very accurate. It's not very accurate at all. But nonetheless, if you really think from his perspective, think about it. If you really believed that somebody was out there raping your women, raping the women in your family, in your community, so these are your sisters, your daughters, your moms, all these people that you care about, and there's someone out there and they're attacking and they're abusing and they're raping these women that you love and care about, might that not make you angry enough to want to kill whoever that rapist is? Aren't there people out there who are doing that right now as we speak? We even have laws in our justice system. Like, this is like considered to be such an atrocious crime that it's like when a killer, rapist is actually arrested and actually convicted, we have some really harsh punishments for them under our laws, because we believe this is such a horrible crime. Similarly, the idea of you're taking over our country. If you really, really believed that there was another group of people that was coming and trying to take over your land, might that not make you angry enough to want to kill those invaders? I mean, isn't that happening all over the world? Even in the context of our own American history, we fought a war of independence against the British. And from our American perspective, right, the people who fought for American independence and freedom, they were heroes. They are heroes. And the fact that they were willing to kill and be killed for the cause, that is something that we appreciate and admire about them. So if you really have this perspective that about a people, then and you think about what this white supremacist did, then you begin to see that, yeah, he was, from his perspective, he really was making the best decision that he could with what he knew and what he had in that moment. Now, of course, we don't agree with his perspective. So what do you do when we have disagreements? When we have disagreements in perspective? Well, I mean, we do what we must, right? I mean, in cases where the disagreements are such that there's people's lives at stake, we will of course do the best we can, even with all the empathy and compassion that we are feeling towards the other person, towards the other party. We're nonetheless going to have to take the best decisions that we can with what we know and what we have, to make sure that we are protecting the lives of innocent people and the people that we love and care about in our community. So in this case, for example, we arrested, our police and so forth, our justice system were involved in the case. This person got arrested. He's still in jail. We don't know what the exact outcome may be of his court case and so on and so forth. But the thing is, again, right now, we are making the best decisions with what we know and what we have to protect the lives of the innocent people that are part of our community. Now, but in the vast majority of cases, in our personal lives, everyday lives, for most of us, the points of disagreement that we have with the people in our lives, or the reasons that we are in conflict with the people in our lives, they're not related to life and death issues. So in that case, it's what are some of the things for us to remember, to watch out for, to do, to engage in, to help us to continue to act with empathy and compassion towards each other, and to help maximize our chances of getting back to a place of inner peace and even outer peace and achieve more healing. What are some of the other things? So the first thing that we've been talking about, again, is just staying grounded in the knowing that, hey, we're ultimately, we are connected to each other in our humanity, right? But the second thing that I want to highlight is to recognize the blessing of diversity, the blessings that exist in diversity. Yes, in the sense that, look, when people are out there with different perspectives, different ideas of right and wrong, good and bad, it can certainly complicate things for all of us. And it can certainly complicate, when we think about what is justice, what is injustice, and all those kinds of things. But at the same time, to recognize that there is a great value to our ability to have the freedom to have differences in opinions, to be able to, I think it's like the freedom of speech, for example, the freedom of thought. These are some of the founding principles and rights that are protected in our Constitution. I'm going to reveal to you that, I think it's a very, isn't it like the First Amendment of our Constitution, the freedom of speech? And then we have things like the freedom of religion, with separation of church and state, right? So that we can actually promote and protect people's right to believe what they believe, to practice what they practice. Now, of course, we are like putting these. We recognize these freedoms. We value these freedoms, but we also put certain limits and constraints around. So, free speech. Just because we have the freedom of speech doesn't give us the right to just say anything, anywhere, anytime, right? Because our words have impact. They have consequences. So there are certain constraints, even under the law, around the idea of whether it's freedom of speech or freedom of religious diversity and all those kinds of things. But my gosh, the fact that to recognize the blessing, the great value in the existence of diversity, of perspectives, diversity of beliefs. If you look at things from research shows that the most healthy, thriving communities and ecosystems, whether we are talking about communities and ecosystems at the level of the communities and ecosystems of plants and animals, or even in a human context, the most healthy and thriving communities are the ones that are the most diverse, that have plenty of variation. From an evolutionary perspective, if you think about it, it's because, my gosh, so the more diversity there is, diversity of traits, diversity of characteristics, the more there is to choose from, right? Like natural selection. So you can choose the best of what works. See, because the processes of evolution, of natural selection, they're not necessarily creating new ways of being. You're sort of like the processes of natural selection are sort of, it's like, okay, this is what we have, and you select the best of what you have, right? So now the more diversity you have, the more choice you have, the more ability you have to make better choices. Now this is and the reason why more diverse communities are the most healthy, most thriving also is that, especially over a period of time, because everything's constantly changing in our environments, in our ecosystems, even within our own selves, everything's constantly changing. So it's like, as things change, as context, the environment, different environmental factors begin to change, what is best? What is the best solution also changes. Because what is best, what is right, what is wrong, all these concepts are relative, or they can be very relative to the environmental conditions, relative to the context within which you're making these judgments about good, bad, right, wrong, what's good, what's better, what's best. So again, that's why diversity is so important, because as the conditions change, contexts change, you know, what is best may change. What works best may change. And if you don't have diversity, it's like you won't have the ability to adapt to those changes, because you won't have the different options to choose from for the new best solution. So just think about that. I'm looking at the time. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up right here for today, and we'll pick up on this in the next episode. In the meanwhile, remember that if this is something you find yourself struggling with, do not continue to struggle with it on your own. Please reach out for help and support, and you know that I'm one person you can reach out to. Just go to my website at www.academyofthriving.com, click on the Contact Us page, and you will see how you can connect with me. So until next time, I wish you lots of peace and joy.